We are on Yudal. I'll make this a little louder. Okay. A rod that is on top of a doorway, even if it is 100 cubits high, spreads tuma no matter how narrow it is. These are the words of Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, do not treat this any stricter than a ledge. A ziz-type ledge encircles the entire house and overlaps 3 finger breadths of the doorway. If tuma is inside the house, utensils underneath the ledge become tummy. If tuma is underneath the ledge, Rabbi Eliezer rules the house tummy, and Rabbi Yeshua rules the house tahor. The same applies in a courtyard surrounded by an awning. There are 2 judges, one above the other, each a handbreadth wide, and there is a cube handbreadth between them. If there is tuma underneath them, whatever is underneath them becomes tummy. If there is tuma between them, whatever is between them becomes tummy. If there is tuma above them, whatever is directly above it, up to the sky becomes tummy. If the upper one extends beyond the lower one by a handbreadth, and tuma is underneath or between them, whatever is underneath or between them becomes tummy. If there is tuma above them, directly above it, up to the sky becomes tummy. If the upper one extends beyond the lower one by less than a handbreadth, and tuma is in the underneath them, whatever is underneath them or between them becomes tummy. If there is tuma between them or beneath the extension, Rabbi Eliezer says whatever is underneath them them or between them becomes tummy. Rabbi Yeshua says whatever is between them and whatever is underneath the extension becomes tummy, but whatever underneath the ledge itself remains tahor.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the whiteboard here because the best way of explaining what's going on over here again is to see it in practice. Here again is our wall. Yes, Bahin. So again, we've got our wall, a little bit of a crooked wall, but so it is. Okay, and on the wall, we've got our 2 ledges. So the 2 ledges have got are once again they're a tefach wide at least, but between them is a very small gap. Okay, so this gap over here is less than a tefach.
All right.
So now what happens is that anything that's less than a tefach, if you recall, if it's less than a tefach, it's called a tumah or a tzutza. It's an included tumah, and the tumah is going to break out, and which means that the top wall of the tumah is not going to help. That's the thing of this. Okay. So yesh bein posech tefach ve'ein beineim posech tefach tumah tachtehen. So now what happens if the tumah is down here? Let's see if you can preempt this. Where is going to be tameh?
Below.
Only below, right? Because there's a perfectly good ohel, and it's going to make a tameh. Everything above is going to be tahor. Right. Okay, and so tachten tameh. Now, what happens if the tumah is underneath here? So now that this is less than a tefach, what's going to happen is that the tumah is going to spread underneath here, but it's also going to break. It's also going to break through. Wait, hang on. Is it going to spread? Hold on. No, I'm wrong. Undo. This because it's not considered an ohel at all.
Because it's not thick enough.
Because it's not a tefach. It's not a tefach high. So because it's not a tefach at all that's going to happen is it's going to break through up to the shemayim.
Okay, so of course it's not tefach wide. It's not going to go out.
Right. So the bottom is protected because this shelf over here is a good ohel. Remember, the ohel is by the roof. Similarly, if the tumah is here, of course it's going to go up to the shemayim, but this over here is not considered an ohel. So therefore, it'll break through only up to here.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what we're saying. It's
not going to go out then between the 2.
Hang on, but just a second. Am I wrong about that one? Just maybe I got that one wrong. אבל אין הבוקס יורדת למטה תחתון. אם תומא על גבי הזיז העליון, אין היא בוקס אלא למעלה, אבל לא למטה. I'm wrong. Right, not this. It doesn't break through here. I got that part wrong. So just rewind and say from there only upwards. It doesn't break through this one over here. Okay. Okay, so this one actually is picks up the protection from this one. So these two are considered as if they're solid. So in each case here, it breaks through up, but it does not break through downwards because there is a valid ohel underneath it at some point.
Okay.
Okay. Right, Mishna Zayin. Ein bahen posech tefach. Now we've got the case is that the ledges here now are small ledges. Okay, they're small ledges and they're they're just little protrusions like this. Ein bahen posech tefach. Ben sheyesh beinehem posech tefach, ben she'ein beinehem posech tefach. So it doesn't matter whether it's like this, right? They're less than a tefach wide, and whether it's a big gap between them or a small gap between them. Tumah tachtehen, if the tumah is down here, beinehen, or if it's between them, whether there, or al gabehen. Tumah bokas v'ola bokas v'yoredes. The tumah just goes up, just goes straight up in a vertical line, all the way up and down.
Which is less than a handbreadth. So there's no
because these ledges are not a handbreadth, they don't count as an ohel at all, and the tumah just breaks straight through. Okay. And this last sentence is referring to this entire setup that we've been talking about with the walls and the ledges. Is that it's not just about ledges; it's also if you've got urios, they are.
They call them curtains. They say curtains here.
Right. If you made curtains, so it could be something made out of cloth that could also be an ohel. Okay, as long as they're above the ground by posech tefach, you would have exactly the same dinim, whether it's a solid ledge like that or whether it's a curtain going down there. Okay. Mishnah Aleph. Segos aveh v'kofes aveh. So now these big, thick, heavy coats. So we've seen this halacha before, and it's being repeated over here. And the Mefarshim are wondering why we mention this again over here. Because liachora it's basically the same halacha that we learned before. The Baal Sidrei Taurus explains that it's being brought as a hemshech to the sefer of the previous Mishnah. So it's just being brought again in context, but basically it's the same halacha that we learned before. So I'm going to just stop the share of the whiteboard in the meantime. And okay, so this thick coat or a kofes aveh or garment, whatever they are, they're made out of a very thick, heavy cloth. Ein mevin is a tuma ad shehu gavoin min haaretz poseach tefach. So they're sitting on the ground, and even though they're thick, and if you take a big overcoat and you leave it on the ground, it goes above the ground by a tefach. But that doesn't mean that it makes an ohel on top of everything underneath it, neither to block or to spread tumah. Okay, unless it's elevated above the ground by a tefach. So if it's sitting on a table or something like that, on a prop, or the table itself would be an ohel. Okay, kafulin zo al gabi zo, if they're folded one on top of the other. So einan mevin is a tuma ad sheteheha elyona gavoa min haaretz poseach tefach. So if you've got a laundry pile stacked on top of each other, then if the stack is a tefach high, and you put another garment on top of it, then that garment that's more than a tefach high will form an ohel over everything underneath it. Okay, why? Because you look at it as if everything underneath it is empty. Because the other garments themselves do not have the ability to block tumah; they're susceptible to tumah themselves, so therefore they cannot block tumah. And now this one garment that's a tefach of the ground is kilu, like it's floating there, because the garments underneath can't remove from the space underneath to block up the tefach, and therefore it makes an ohel.
Right.
Um,
So it's going to spread. It's going to spread upward.
so no, well, it won't spread upward. That's hang on.
No,
Well, if it's an ohel, no, if it's an ohel, then it's propped up. Yeah, if it's a proper ohel, it'll block tumah as well.
okay, okay.
It'll block tumah upwards. Um,
The last, the last, the last sentence changes it though. If they're made of marble.
Tablios shall eights. Now,
Right.
let's go to the wood before we get to the marble.
Okay.
Tablios shall eights zo al gabzu. Okay. If you've got a whole bunch of platters of wood that are stacked one on top of the other. So it's exactly the same as the clothing. The same situation as the clothing is that the uppermost
Yeah.
wooden block will spread tumah because it's being propped up in place by all the other things which will not prevent the tumah from spreading.
The
Okay.
wooden tablets, one above the other, do not spread tumah unless the uppermost one is a handbreadth above the
Right.
ground.
So once
Right.
once the uppermost one is a tefach, then that's an ohel. It's an ohel above a tefach. But there's a difference with it when it comes to marble or any kind of stone. Okay, because the stone is considered part of the ground. It's ke'ilu you've just stacked up ground underneath it.
Right.
Okay, so that is part of the ground, and therefore even if you've got a stack of stone slabs one on top of the other, it won't ever form an ohel because it's just ke'ilu you've built up the ground. That's all that's happened. Okay, the stone is batel to the ground. Tuma bokas or la bokas v'yeredis. So any tuma inside will be a tuma ritzutza, a confined tuma, and will just break straight through up and down.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and let's do chazara.
Yud Aleph Vav.
No, hey.
Hey, if the person is lying on the threshold while corpse bearers pass by over him, the Shammai says that he does not spread tumah, whereas Beisila says he does spread tumah. If the tumor is inside the house while tahor people pass over him, Beit Shammai declares them tahor, whereas Beis Hillel declares them tameh. If dogs ate corpse flesh and then died and is presently lying across the threshold of a house, Reb Meir says if its neck is a handbreadth wide, tumor spreads into the house, and if not, tumor does not spread into the house. Yossi says we check the tumor. If it's inside the doorstep, the house becomes tameh. If it is inside the doorstep, the house remains tahor. If Eliezer says if its mouth is inside the house remains tahor. If its mouth is outside the house, becomes tameh because the tumor exits through the rear. Rabbi Yehuda ben Sisara says in any case, these cases become tameh. How long can the corpse flesh remain inside a misukavei tumah? 24-hour periods. And regarding the birds and fish, long enough to be thrown into a fire and become burnt. These are the words of Rav Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda ben Sisara says regarding birds and fish for 24 hours. Okay.
Kalim.
This is Aleph. The threads of a sheet of a scarf of hats and of a head shawl, their measure is 6 finger breadths. The threads of an undergarment, their measure is 10 finger breadths. The threads of an overcoat, of a veil, of a shirt, or a mantle, their measure is 3 finger breadths. The fringes of an old woman's cap, of an Arab face covering, of a kultan, of a halabed, of a turban, of a partition, their measure is whatever the length of the fringes may be. Three mattresses of wool, 6 of linen, 3 sheets, 12 kerchiefs, 2 trousers, 1 shirt, 1 mantle, 1 winter coat are considered connected with respect to tumah and to sprinkling. If their quantity is more than this, they are viewed as connected with respect to tumah, but not respect to sprinkling. And Rabbi Yossi says not even with respect to tumah. The cord of a plumber, its measure is 12. The plumber cord of a carpenter, its measure is 18. That of builders, its measure is 50 amot. More than this length, even if the one desires to retain it, is tahor. And those of plasterers or of artisans, their measure is of any length.
Okay.
Midos. Zion. The entrance of the antechamber's height was 40 amot and its width was 20 amot, and 5 decorated openings were above the entrance. The bottom beam was wider than the entrance by 1 amot on this side and 1 amot on that side. The beam above it was wider than the first beam by 1 amot on this side and 1 amot on this side. It is found that the uppermost beam was 30 amot, and a row of stones was between each and every beam. And beams of cedar were fixed between the wall of the hekel and the wall of the antechamber so that the wall should not buckle. And chains of gold were attached to the ceiling of the antechamber, which young Kohanim would climb up and see the crowns, as it is stated. The crowns will be remembered for It should be Helen, right? Not Helen. Is it Helen? Helem?
Helm.
Helen, right?
Oh, Helm. Yes. Okay. Yes, that's right. It's a name.
Helen is all right. I thought it was Helen. For Tobaja and for Jediah and for Cain, son of Zephaniah, and the Hakel of Hashem. A golden grapevine stood at the entrance of the Hakel and was suspended above wooden poles. And anyone who donated a leaf or a single grape or a cluster of wells would bring the donation and hang it upon the golden vine. But Eleazar, the son of Sadak, said there once was an incident where 300 Kohanim were appointed on its account. And the entrance of the Hakel's height was 24 amos, and its width was 10 amos, and it had 4 doors, 2 at the inside, 2 at the outside, and it was stated there were 2 doors to the Hakel and to the Holy of Holies. The outer doors opened into the entrance to cover the thickness of the wall, and the inner doors opened to the Hakel to cover the area behind the doors. For the entire Hakel was plated with gold except for the area behind the doors. Rabbi Yehuda says both sets of doors stood within the entranceway, and they were like an istramita insofar as they folded back on themselves, as outer doors occupied 2.5 amos. And the inner doors occupied 2.5 amos, leaving half an amma for the doorpost on this side and half an amma for the doorpost on this side. As it is stated in Yechezkel, there were two doors for each one of the doors, 2 swinging doors, one for the door and 2 doors for the other. Okay. Avodah Zarah. Okay, the Zalit. The idol of a Gentile becomes prohibited immediately, but that of a Jew does not become prohibited until it is worshipped. A Gentile can nullify his idol and that of his fellow Gentile, but a Jew cannot nullify a Gentile's idol. If one nullifies an idol, he has nullified accessories. If he nullified his accessories are permitted, but it remains prohibited. How does he nullify it? If it is cut off the tip of the, if he cut off the tip of its ear, the tip of its nose, the tip of its finger. An idol that was abandoned by worshippers, if this occurred in time of peace, is permitted for benefit in time of war. It is prohibited.
You skipped.
I skipped the page?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Sorry. How does he nullify it? If he cut off the tip of his ear, the tip of the nose, and the tip of the finger, or he dented it, even if he did not diminish it, he has nullified it. If he spit in front of it or urinated in front of it, dragged it through mud and threw excrement at it, it is not nullified. And if he sold it or gave it as a pledge, Rebbe says he has nullified it, but the Tanakh say he has not nullified it. An idol that was abandoned by its worshippers, if this occurred in time of peace, it was permitted, or benefit in time of war, it's prohibited. Royal pedestals are permitted because they erect them only when the king passes. They asked the elders of that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yavamas.
Almost. Okay. Vav. There were 3 brothers, and 2 of them were married to 2 sisters. Which one was married to a stranger? I'm sorry. There were two brothers, and 2 of them were married to 2 sisters, and while one was married to a stranger. If the husband of one of the sisters died, and the one married to the stranger married his wife, and then died, the first one is discharged as his wife's sister, and the second one is co-wife. If he performed mama with her and then died, the stranger requires kalitza and may not be taken in yibum. If there were 3 brothers and 2 of them were married to 2 sisters, or one of them married a stranger, if the one married to the stranger died and the husband of one of the sisters married his wife and then died, the first one discharges his wife's sister and the second one as his co-wife. If he performed a mama with her and then died, the stranger requires kalitza but may not be taken in yibum. If there were 3 brothers and 2 of them were married to 2 sisters, while one was married to a stranger, if the husband of one of the sisters died and the one married to the stranger married his wife, and the wife of the second one then died, and then the one married to the stranger died, she is forbidden to him forever, since she has once been forbidden to him. If there were 3 brothers and 2 of them married 2 sisters, while one of them married a stranger, if the husband of one of the sisters divorced his wife, and then the one who married to the stranger died, and the divorced brother married her and then died, about this it was said, if any of them died or were divorced, their co-wives are permitted. Okay. If any of them had been the subject of a questionable betrothal or divorce, the co-wives require kalitza, but may not be taken in yibum. How is that a betrothal was in question? If he threw the betrothal to her and there was doubt whether it was closer to him or closer to her, this is a question of betrothal. How is that the divorce was in question? If he wrote a bill of divorce in his own hand, but without witnesses, or with witnesses but without a date, or with a date without witness, with only one witnesses, there is a questionable divorce.
Okay.
And shviyat. Hey, three trees which belong to 3 people combined, and one may plow the entire Beit Saw for their sake. And what would space would be left between them? And Gamil says for oxen to pass through with their implements. For 10 saplings are spread out over a Beit Saw, the Beit Saw may be plowed for their sake until Rosh Hashanah. If they are planted in a row and surrounded by a fence, it is permitted to plow only as much as they require. Saplings and gourds and Greek gourds combined in a Beit Saw. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says if there are 10 gourds within a Beit Saw, the entire Beit Saw may be plowed until Rosh Hashanah.
Okay, and we're done.
And I want to tell you something. You don't have to roll, right? I saw